Former Vice President Joe Biden says he will be more mindful of people's personal space after 7 women suggested he touched them in an uncomfortable way. One of them, a former White House intern, told the Washington Post Biden, quote, pressed his forehead to my forehead in 2013.
Biden, who's expected to join the Democratic presidential race, posted a Twitter video yesterday. He said, quote, social norms are changing. I understand that. And I've heard that these women, or rather what these women are saying. So Ed O'Keefe has more on Biden's statement and how others are reacting.
Coming month, I expect to be talking to you about a whole lot of issues, and I'll always be direct with you. I get it. I hear what they're saying. I understand it.
In the video, Joe Biden acknowledged his actions, but did not apologize.
In my career, I've always tried to make a human connection. We'll be more mindful and respectful of people's personal space, and that's a good thing.
His comments come after 3 more women told the Washington Post Biden made them feel uncomfortable. One of those women, Vail Conert-Yount, said while she was a White House intern in 2013, Biden pressed his forehead to hers. She remembers him telling her she was a pretty girl. Caitlin Caruso met Biden after she spoke at an event on sexual assault.
Left his hand on my thigh, maybe in an attempt to console me, but regardless, it crossed my boundaries and made me feel uncomfortable.
All the women maintain what they experienced was not sexual harassment or assault, but isn't behavior that should be tolerated.
You're running for office. We're not grabbing people. We're not kissing them. We're not, hugging them. Just no.
On Wednesday, Biden earned support from an unlikely source.
Should he apologize for his conduct?
No, he's going to make his own decisions. He's very capable of making a decision.
But the controversy has exposed a generational rift among Democrats.
We're all affectionate. Like I would hold you like that or something like that. You would call that sexual because I held you like this?
No.
With the Me Too movement, I think sometimes people go a little too far with that.
I think that we have a culture that finds that acceptable, and it's only recently that we've started to discuss it. I don't think it'll have any impact on his candidacy, unfortunately.
So we spoke to Ed earlier on CBSN AM about how the 2020 candidates are responding to the latest reports.
Virtually all of them have said we believe the accusers, they have a right to speak out, but it's up to him and the voters to decide, trying to separate themselves from it. They don't want to weigh in any real way because it could come back to bite them. Either you're the one that was responsible for kicking him out of the race, or why didn't you call on him to get out of the race? It's a really tricky thing, and it's frustrating for them, but frankly, you know what? Republican candidates back in the day were facing questions about Donald Trump. The Democratic candidates got to face questions about the guy who is currently their front runner, even though he's not in the race, whether they like it or not.
Right, and just like Donald Trump, there are videos and there are an awful lot of pictures that, may threaten to sort of continue to resurface. But speaking of video, the former vice president made a video. He responded to this. What was your sort of takeaway?
Well, for one thing, he doesn't apologize outright, which I think speaks to a debate that we know was kind of going on among the vice president, his family, and the people who are set to advise him, which is, do you have to apologize for this, or are you just sort of going to clarify and explain that, look, this has been part of my MO throughout my entire political career, 40-plus years. I'm a compassionate guy. I have a lot of concern for people. Part of the way I show that is by embracing them and sort of using his height and his size to envelop people, literally envelop people and say, I get it and I'm sorry. I thought it was interesting that it was shot on a shaky iPhone, vertical, not
weird.
Horizontal.
Basically, he's like, let me say something real quick. Let me say something real quick.
Always go horizontal, please, because it makes for a far better television experience. You kids who gram, I know you do it vertical, but we prefer horizontal.
It must not have been a young staffer.
No. And that's part of it, too. We were talking about this earlier this week. He doesn't have a political operation in place to even orchestrate that.
Right.
Who knows who that was holding the video, but it wasn't some paid staffer necessarily.
Right.
So let's talk about someone who seems to have a high, well-oiled machine already in place, and that's Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Yep.
He has been, and it's interesting, Ed, his polling numbers are low. He hasn't raised as much money as some of the other candidates, but he's saturating the airwaves. You see him on the front pages of a lot of newspapers. Is it because he is really exciting to the electorate, or because he's been made available to us and to other news organizations?
He's accessible. He's talking to anyone who asks, and he knows that by doing that, he's reaching all sorts of audiences, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's on a streaming all-news channel, whether it's to the New York Times. There are people to be met there, and in this increasingly fragmented media universe, his team understands that the more audiences you get in front of, the more you're going to get heard about. And Democratic activists, others I talk to, everyone seems to walk away with at least a sense of, this guy, there might be something to him.
Yeah.
And it's because they say he has interesting answers. He's not afraid to give them. He's not pandering. There was an event with him last night at Northeastern University in Boston. They anticipated 200. 1,000 showed up, mostly college kids, because they'd heard about the guy and they liked the fact, some reports say, that he doesn't pander to us. He's just sort of speaking his own truth, and people will have to decide for themselves. This morning he tweets out he has a special announcement coming April 14th. Remember, he's still in the exploratory stage, so he actually has to formally declare, and we are led to believe that he will formally declare on April 14th.
He also sort of announced that he's raised $7 million. There's
Right.
sort of big deal made out of that because he is the mayor of South Bend. But, you know, other candidates have raised much
Yes.
more. But my question to you, Ed, is does that even really matter? I mean, okay.
No, not necessarily. Not at this stage. I mean, Bernie Sanders raised like 18 million this quarter. Kamala Harris had about 12. Beto O'Rourke in 18 days raised 9 million. Mayor Pete, who a month ago was not getting this kind of conversation going about him, raised 7 million. That's impressive because there are senators who are better known who probably have not raised that much. Remember, everyone has to formally report their money raised by April 15th. If they want to tell us sooner, they can. So we anticipate this drip will continue until the 15th of the month, when the first quarterly campaign fundraising reports are due to the Federal Election Commission. Part of what this debate becomes about is what was the size of the average contribution, how many people contributed, and how many of those people maybe contributed multiple times. It is an indication of the grassroots style support that they will need to sustain themselves, not only financially, but on the ground all across the country as this continues. Right. And it's the only little bit of data that we have to sort of pick apart and debate right now, when they otherwise all agree on the same things, you know?
Right.
Got to deal with climate change, got to fix the immigration system, got to protect the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
It's just on the margins, sort of, who's looking stronger than the rest.
All right.
All right. Ed O'Keefe, always great to have you in New York, my friend.
Great
Thank
to
you very
see you.
much.